accessible as you would think. Okay.
Yeah, I got that.
Okay, let me then turn on the recorder for the audio feed. All right. Well, welcome back, everybody, to another exciting episode of Aaron's Opinion. We're very honored and very pleased to be joined by someone who came to us several years ago. I'm sure that, well, you may or may not remember our great friend in the community, Daniel Hood, Daniel J. Hood, from Hood Wave Disability Radio. Welcome back, and I'll just let you dig into your questions. You have some very good questions that you want to ask me, and then we will dig in from there. All right, so go ahead and ask your questions, and I'll definitely give you some great answers. So go ahead.
All right. Okay. Tell us how you basically tell us how you got started podcasting.
Well, I'd be happy to. Well, at the height of Daniel, at the height of the pandemic, and I don't really remember if you specifically knew me. If you knew me back in 2019 and 2020, I really forget when we actually made our acquaintances, but just like now, just like today, I was doing a lot of teaching work, and I still do that today. Thank goodness for that. And when I wasn't teaching, I was going through a lot of the various posts around Facebook where people would ask, specific questions about, blindness and certain things. And these people in these various blindness groups were asking a lot of good questions. And I decided to take the time and answer their questions. And what I would do, Daniel, is I would create an audio file. And from that audio file, I kind of over time discovered that by answering people's questions and by creating audio files, I'm kind of creating a podcast. And then what I figured out was that the people that I were answering are actually my audience. And then I thought, I kind of accidentally created a podcast. And over the years, it developed into Aaron's Opinion, and it developed into Aaron's Opinion TV, which is what you're watching right now on YouTube if you're watching us, if you've joined us on YouTube, right? But all of these things take a very, very long time. So that's how I started it. And I figured out, Daniel, over knowing you and so many great friends in the community, that you and I really need to keep doing this because we really need a lot of great content. We need to have these philosophical conversations. So that's how I got started in podcasting. But what about you?
Oh, I actually had interest for a long time, and then because of other interests, especially when it comes to, I have interest in legislation, making change, and so that was one of the main reasons. But I also want to do it for fun,
Right.
and, so now what I actually want to do is I want to, obviously, I want to do some podcasting, but I did go to a school, but unfortunately I wasn't able to get the hands-on training. Actually, it was a good school, by the way.
And do you mind? No, do you mind if I ask you what school it was?
No, I have to. Yeah, it's give me a minute. It's the recording, radio, and film connection.
Okay.
And I guess it's a pretty prominent school.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Sure.
yeah, so I guess I found out that a lot of obviously that a lot of stuff is actually remote. A lot of
Right.
stuff isn't in person, which what I really needed. So now I'm in the process of writing letters to corporations and radio stations, and hopefully I'll get a response.
So good. So good. The thing that we're doing right now, sitting and having this conversation, I forget if you're older than me or younger than me, but, well, I turn 32 next month. And what we're doing right now, 32 years ago, this would have been part of a science fiction movie. This whole notion of sitting in your office at home and creating a TV show. This would have been like out of sci-fi. It really would. Yeah. Hmm.
I, I agree. I do agree on that.
All right. Well, it sounds good to me. I look forward to hearing more about that specific school. I'm also extremely interested in that. But go ahead to your next question if you would like. Yeah.
Yeah, I could definitely do that. What animals do you admire and what do you enjoy?
Well, enjoy and admire are two different things. As you know, and I still and don't worry, I still love your leopard gecko, and I still remember that you have Spotty, right?
That's correct.
I knew you had a leopard gecko, and I thought his name was Spotty.
But it's actually
And
it's a she.
okay, and I know her name's Spotty, and I know you love her, and that's just so good. I love reptiles, love talking about them. I don't really understand why I don't have one right here in the office. I'm really confused about that. But I would say that the most impressive reptile that I would want to have would be a corn snake. I love snakes. They're so soothing and relaxing. They require very little. They actually require not a whole lot to eat and not much care, really. They just kind of hang out. They're really cool, you know. But and then I'm also fascinated by parrots. I have a bird. I just love everything about birds. So yeah, I wish I had my own parrot too. But what about you? What are some animals that impress you?
Oh, me?
Yeah, you.
I actually like cats. I like dogs.
Me too.
Yeah.
Love
So,
cats. Love dogs. Hmm.
unfortunately, uh,
Right.
my wife Leah, she's allergic, so I can't have a cat. I might be able to have a dog though.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Good. Yeah. Hmm. I think there's a third one in there, right?
Yeah, there's definitely huh. What subjects are closest to your heart?
Mm. Well, for me, every time that I come on and do a live stream with you on YouTube, whoever my guest is here on podcast or YouTube, the subject that I really am attracted to and really holds a special place for me is just the notion of creating a great conversation. I love to have conversations with people, you know. So I'm discovering that one of the things that I enjoy is philosophizing with people and engaging the public on certain critical matters. So that's really, what I really, really, really enjoy. Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next question I'm going to ask: how do
Oh,
you
but wait a minute. Oh, but wait. But what about you?
me?
Yeah, you.
Oh, geez. What's closest to my heart is
Yeah.
self advocacy, making change, and especially when it comes to legislation. Um,
That's a really good answer. That's an ex. So when I was talking, Daniel, I was talking with someone just the other night, another great friend in the community. We'll call her Miss Jackson, and she was also very concerned about that we really need to start making the changes in legislative issues. So, what are some changes that you want to make? Tell me about it.
well, I personally, I would like to, well, and when it comes to education, uh, uh, especially when it comes to the workplace, uh, there's what you call sheltered workshops. It's
Yeah.
basically for people who, need help, but that's what they're trying. And also, one of the most important is, when it comes to public housing, um,
Mm-hmm.
income, it's just that's one of my most important things is when it comes to people with disabilities, when it comes to Section 8, they go by how much income that you make. But
Right.
well, personally, I think that if we can't, because it's not everybody's going to make a solid salary, because sometimes, well, obviously, some people are on Social Security. Some of them, their hours fluctuate, so it doesn't necessarily. And so yeah, so if you don't incidentally file on time, it's really it's a complex.
Mm-hmm. It it really is. It really is, and it's not just an issue for you, but it's also an issue in the blindness community. Blind people struggle tremendously with that issue as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or I guess you could say I fight. I'm trying to fight for everyone.
Well, I appreciate it. I really do, because we need more Daniel Hoods is what we need. We need more people that just come out here and care. And the amount that you care, and I can tell that you care, and that really shines through. The amount of genuineness and the fact that you care about things really shines through. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, well, I can say this. I actually have a mentor when I had this, when I actually was in school. So they provide a mentor for you. So my mentor even said that too. He can tell that I'm very passionate in what I believe in.
Yeah, you're very real. You're very real. You're a very. I mean, not. I was never doubting you a couple years ago, but you're just a great person to have in the community. You're just a great person. It's just very clear. It's just very clear to me, and I can't tell you, if you would ask me, Aaron, what's so great about me. I can't quite tell what is so great about you, except for the fact that I know you're great. Just your aura. You just have the right vibe for me. Really.
Oh, that's cool. Well, thanks. Okay. All right. This is the one question I want. Well, when it comes to situations, how do you handle issues when they arise?
Yeah. I think that's really hard for me, because oftentimes when a situation arises, I get frustrated, and it's when you have a disability, a situation that one person, one person over here might say, well, that's not a situation. Well, as a matter of fact, little situations arise all the time in the blindness community. We have a problem, and I'm going to come out and say it, mainly because I'm kind of in the mood to talk tonight. I'm kind of my batteries are charged up. I'm kind of in the mood to have a conversation, which is that one of the problems I'm seeing on YouTube, and seeing it all over the universe, is that people are really resistant to competition. And what I mean is that there are so many people in the community who I feel would be doing an even better job if they took the time to help others who also want to be doing a better job. In other words, we need to be a lot more helpful in the community. I can make, and I'll never make a promise I'm not going to keep, but the promise I can keep is that if someone comes to me in the community and they say, hey, Aaron, I need an interview. I need to talk to you on your podcast. I'm going to help you. And I mean it. And that's very important. Unfortunately, what I'm seeing is a lot of other people that are, that might be, a couple steps up on the ladder, a couple floors above me, in the empire. A lot of them, some of them are not always willing to be helpful. And I think that will be a tremendous demise for people. But what do you think about that?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure. I mean, when it comes to handling pressure, uh,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you're trying to, well, especially when you're trying to, ask for help,
Right.
and you need help right now, or especially when somebody says they're going to help you and they don't. I'm into that. I kind of in that right now. So
Mm-hmm. Right.
it's being patient on that. Being
Mm-hmm.
patient
Sure.
on that front.
Sure. Well, patience is very important. It takes a very long time to move all the way up in Spotify or YouTube or whatever you do. It's just a very long process. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, this is actually a pretty good question. So what is your view on disability pride and its effects
Mm-hmm.
on the
Oh, I
disability
like that. Oh, I like that one. Here's the thing. I do not have disability pride, and I'm going to tell you why. I don't have disability pride because sighted people don't have sighted pride. You don't have, you shouldn't have, and there's a famous podcaster who I tremendously look up to and who's doing a great job in the community. Another great friend in the community. I've never had the honor of interviewing him, but I would love to sit down with Jonathan Mosen of his podcast. I believe it's called now. He changed the name. I think it's called Living Blindfully. I think. I think that's what it's called. But Jonathan Mosen does an amazing job, and I love his content. Do I agree with every last thing he says? No, but he's still doing an amazing job for blind people all over the world globally, and he's still a great podcaster. And one of the things he said, and I don't really remember when he said it, but I completely agreed with him, is that blind people don't need to have blindness pride. There's nothing to be prideful of. There's no pride associated with disability, because there's no pride associated with not having disability. We are who we are. If you're born blind, you're born blind. If you're born, I'm sorry, Daniel, I forget if you're blind or not. I forget your situation. I kind of forget all the details about you, but however we start out in life, that's life. So there's nothing to be prideful or shameful about. It's just life. But does that make sense?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, believing in yourself is one of the key factors. But having pride is, it's just believing in yourself. I mean, being proud for who you are. There's nothing wrong with being proud of who you are, and nothing's going to stop me from doing what I want. I'm proud. The reason why I say that I'm proud with disability, because there was a time in my life I tried to deny my disability. I tried so hard.
Well, see, now I want to know. I want to philosophize with you. Like, how can you? Because here's the thing, I've never tried to deny being blind, because there's nothing to deny. So, like, how do you deny disability? Either you have a disability or you don't. Like, what do you mean?
Oh, what I mean by deny is that I never accepted, because I had all these abilities, and the fact that, well, I got to the point where now I'm older. Now I'm actually 46. I'm going to be 47 here, in a couple months. But the whole point is that, I realize, there's well, that's what I mean by pride, is that there was a time when I tried so hard to be, I've tried so hard to be normal. I tried to fit in, which unfortunately failed, but I didn't say it completely failed directly, but, I was able to fit into a lot of classes, this is in my youth.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you're successful. I view you as someone who's successful because you're taking the time to talk to me. You're taking the time to have the courage to come to my show. Only successful people come to podcasts. Don't forget that. Only good people show up on podcasts.
That's an interesting way of saying it. Yeah. So, and those are pretty much all the questions I have for you. But
right.
So I can try to. We can try to pick brains here.
No, I can try to pick a brain. I specialized that in university. I specialized in brain picking. What are some questions you want to what are some questions you want to philosophize with me about?
Basically, well, I will just say it. When it comes to your legislation, what are your views on some of the stuff that's is going on right now, or things that you would like to change in the system?
Well, now it depends upon what you mean. What I think about legislation is, I think that the majority of it is just some of it's true, but most of it is just a joke. Because I'm really scared, and Daniel, I am really concerned about this country, this America country, because I see that we are electing some extremely, in my opinion, some extremely concerning people that either have no interest in the United States or truly, in some cases, have malicious or, in some other cases, misled views about society. And I'm very scared of some of these people. Quite frankly, I'm scared of the people that I didn't vote for, and I'm really scared of the people I voted for, because there are some scary people that we have to vote for. And I think the problem and my frustration in all of it is that every time I go to the polls here in Florida, every time I go to the polls wherever it is in Florida, anytime I go to the polls, it's, all I have is bad people to vote for. And that's the problem, Daniel, is that we're not putting the right people into positions where they're able to make a better decision. Like I say here on Aaron's Opinion, help one person today, help a million people tomorrow, right? Well, what we need to do is we need to put someone into office who's going to decide that they're going to help us today and help a million Americans tomorrow. And that's what we need. Now, the legislation, well, there's a lot of legislation, right? But the legislation doesn't prevent people, and I know I've said it before and I'll say it again, having legislation does not prevent people from having opinions about the disability community, whether you're blind or you have a learning disability or you're in a wheelchair or you're deaf or whatever. The legislation does not prevent someone from having an opinion. So until we find a way of preventing someone from having an opinion, then we will find ourselves making circles round and round and round and round, round and round the hamster wheel, and neither really doing any more good for the disability community. So if that answer makes sense to you, that if I'm making logical sense, which I might not be, but if I'm making logical sense, the problem is not the legislation. The problem is the society and the people who claim to be writing the law.
I actually agree with that, because society, people make society, and what society is depend on what people think of what should or should not be.
You got it precisely. But what do you think about the notion of legislation?
Well, now when it comes to voting, yeah, I'm, I tell you the truth, I do get confused when what's going on.
Because it's not just because you have a disability. This is a confusing country to live in. It's not your imagination. This is a very confusing country. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, what do you mean? Yeah.
So for foreign, they're trying to, this is a really good example is, fixing roads. Okay, they're gonna fix a road, but what does fixing roads have anything to do with a person with a disability? I could see maybe, some type of mental mobility, some type of maybe helping people, getting to and from an area or to a community. I mean, that kind of stuff like that. But I have a really hard time with that. It's, so right now we have a friend here. His name is Daryl. He's really big on transportation and trying to improve the trains and especially the bus systems, because he also has a disability, which he has a scooter. He is married. Well, I don't know. He calls, obviously the two, they actually have a child together, but they do a lot of stuff. One of them's in, it's really cool that, actually getting to know people, and especially when they do want to make change.
Yeah, that's really important. So, I mean, I think transportation is a huge issue. We here in the United States, our country has never really taken public transportation seriously. We just haven't, So, it is a very interesting concept and a very interesting notion. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, especially here in Minnesota, everybody wants to
I
drive.
was wondering what I knew you were up in the northern United. I was wondering, is it Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota? I knew it was one of those states up there. Yeah.
Yeah. Minnesota is everybody wants to drive. Everybody wants a driver's license. I can't have a driver's license. I don't know my disability. I'm not going to be able to. It's just something I just can't do, and so I need public transportation. Some people,
Sure.
they complain, but I'm glad it's there. I mean,
hmm
so I could be on a bus for 5 hours as long as I get to my destination.
Right.
Well,
Although I would not want to be on a bus for 5 hours, but yeah.
no. But I was just saying that for people that can't get
hmm
around,
hmm
it's one of those. We need more trains. I mean, I'm not talking, the transit trains. I'm talking about the actual, choo
Yeah.
choos.
Yeah. Yeah. The actual trains that are long range trains. I was just in France for 2 months, because I'm a French speaker, and we took the trains all over the place. It's a lot of fun, but it's also very tiring. It's very complicated. You have to get to the station at the right time.
Especially when you have to speak French.
Well, for me, it's easy to speak French. Pour moi, il est facile pour me parler le français.
Oh,
Yeah.
so you
Voilà.
so actually you speak fluent. Do you speak fluent French?
Merci. Yep. Yeah, because I learned it for a lot of years and I practiced and went to France a lot and practiced and practiced and practiced. And now I love speaking French. Come to think of it, I have we have French listeners here of Aaron's Opinion, but I've actually interviewed very few French people. Yeah, actually, yeah. But so question. So I'm sure you know our great friend in the community, Dustin Lindbergh, right?
No, I don't.
Oh, he's a great friend. He's blind and he's also from Minnesota, and he loves posting about on Facebook. Dustin, my great buddy Dustin. He's basically the public affairs. He's basically the public affairs officer for Aaron's Opinion, even though it's kind of unofficial. He posts every second on Facebook about why people with disabilities should move to Minnesota, and why I should come to St. Paul, and why I should come to Minnesota. So what's the truth? Should people with disabilities flock to Minnesota?
No, that is interesting. It depends on the county. Each county is different. So right now, there's Hennepin County is there's too many people. I
Yeah.
mean, for and so it depends on the county.
Mm-hmm.
It depends where you live. It's Ramsey County. Yeah, that's bad enough. Now you're trying to get help, and the case. I don't know, because the case managers have such a big caseload. Sometimes you have a case manager, for an example, might
Mm-hmm.
not speak English very well, and if
Yeah.
they're from a different background.
Mm-hmm.
But it's yeah, so a lot of this stuff happened, when it came to came to COVID.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of we they lost a lot of the social development and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. 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 Right.
You see that everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is a big problem. Getting services when you have when you have a disability. It's getting to be a bigger and bigger problem. And I think that the pandemic really set us back quite a while. I think that was a huge setback for the disability community, just as it was for anyone else. But yeah. Mm-hmm.
Huh, cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think I pretty much said what I have to say, unless you come up with something. But
Well, I have a lot of things to come up with. So, yeah. So, I mean, as far as a state overall, if someone's blind, they're single like I am, they live with their family right now, but we're thinking about moving to Minnesota, and I'm being overly honest. I'm not. I love Well, but by the way, Minnesota is an amazing place. I'm sure in fact, it's a beautiful place in the summer. I'm sure of that. It's a beautiful state. Great place to be. But it's nowhere near I am, and it's not in my future really to move to Minnesota. But if I did, like, how easy do you think it really is for blind people? I mean, yeah, you aren't blind, but I guess what I'm trying to wonder is why does my buddy Dustin, why is he telling all the blind people to move to Minnesota?
Because well, it like I said again, depends on the county. Some
Right.
counties have better programs. So
Mm-hmm.
that's one thing. If you're going to move anywhere, is to do the research first. You don't
Right.
want to move somewhere where you're not going to get any help. That's yeah. So if we're gonna move anywhere, do the research first.
Mm-hmm. Right. So how is the state of Minnesota set up? Like what? Like the city of St. Paul? Like is that just is it just a city municipality? Like how does the city of St. Paul work?
I don't know. I live in it. That's all I do. So what people do, especially when it comes to, well, obviously when it comes to the mayor and that stuff, I mean, uh,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I'm not, I guess I live
Mm-hmm.
here, and you just like I said, it is a nice state. But the only thing is, in the winter time, it's no fun.
Yeah, so I mean, and that's kind of what I'm wondering. Like in Minnesota, I mean, you're used to being cold, just like I live in the South, so I'm used to being hot. Like when you live in a certain part and environment, you just get used to it, and that's fine. But like in Minnesota, do you have four seasons, or is it mostly cold like 9 months out of the year?
No, it's it's 4 seasons. There's
Mm-hmm.
winter, fall, summer, and autumn or
Right,
fall. Yeah.
right.
So yeah, it's yeah. So in the winter, it's really cold, and
Mm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, within the last few years, it's really been kind of warm. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you got some cold fronts, but I remember, back 30 years ago. I mean, I remember. Oh, this was 1991.
Mm-hmm.
It was Halloween. It snowed on Halloween, and this time when I was 13, I was gonna go to school and open the door, and I'm look outside. It says, "Hey, mom, we're not going to school today." She goes, "Yes, you are," and then she opens the door and she looks down. It's like, okay,
Yeah,
I
yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
wasn't lying.
That's funny. I would think in the state of Minnesota, I would think in Minnesota it always snows on Halloween. I would think by October, I would think it's totally snowed in, right?
Oh, it's not.
Oh, it's not. Oh,
No,
oh,
no,
okay.
it's not actually. In the last few years, it didn't know one year it didn't snow until like November, like
Okay.
right after Thanksgiving, and then it snowed. It was warm. I think it was a couple years ago. It's
Mm-hmm.
so some years it's well, you'll never know. I mean, next year we might end up going back to where it was 30 years ago. It's
Maybe.
been fairly warm for the last 20 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Maybe. Maybe. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Maybe. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Well, that's really interesting. See, because because I've never been to Minnesota, so if you've never been to Minnesota, we have this stereotype of just snow. That's all we think of. We don't realize that there's four seasons there. Um, but that's really interesting. Do you go like in Minnesota? Like, do you live near a lot of national parks? I'm sure there's great hiking in Minnesota.
Oh, when it comes to it, Taylor's Falls is one of them. I really don't get around, obviously, because I don't drive. But yeah, there's places to hike.
Good.
And there's a in Minnesota. It's called Como Park. It's also has a zoo on it, so there's Como Zoo. It's actually
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty nice. There's a few nice parks out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. 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 Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, that's super good. That's super good because I live in kind of a tropical environment where, you know, you probably have the impression that if you live in my state, it's hot every day. Well, no, not really. It is warm the whole year, but every winter though, Daniel, we get into like a cold snap where a couple weeks out of the year it gets really cold all of a sudden, and then it kind of tapers off or things like that. But that's really good. But the fact that we're talking about the weather does impact transportation. It impacts disability. It impacts mobility. I mean, that's a significant thing. Hmm.
Hey, you mentioned Florida. You mentioned Florida. Is that where you are?
Yeah, somewhere in Florida. Yeah.
Oh
Hmm.
yeah, I mean the state of Florida. The state of Florida. I guess
Correct.
I think I've asked that before, but I always said New York, so I've always assumed that
No,
you
you know what? Because you know what's interesting? The time that you came to my show a couple years ago, I was in Maryland. I was still living in Maryland when you came to my show before. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's how
Oh,
much time has passed. Several years have passed. Hmm.
okay. That's the reason why you're okay. That's the reason why the back room looks different.
Right. New house.
Yep. Yeah, yeah, I can see that.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so have you lived in Minnesota your whole life?
Yes. Yes, I have.
Yeah. Yeah. So you were born in Minnesota and you'll live in Minnesota. Hmm. Interesting.
It is interesting. Yeah, especially I'm into, like I said, interested in radio and
Yeah. Okay. So here, wait. Let's here. Let me help you to let's steer it back to that. So you went to some radio school. So what is the school and like what can you tell me like how does that school work and what does it do?
basically it teaches you the history of basically it teaches the history of of the radio and how it got started, and then you go through a course. You have to do a little bit of weather, then you have to do some DJing. You have to go and it's really fun to do. Yeah, and then you have to do some interviews,
Mm-hmm.
starting doing podcasting. um so yeah, that's it. It's getting you ready for the radio and broadcasting. um
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good.
that's the fun part.
Mm-hmm. Well, that is really cool. That is really cool. And then what happens after you complete the modules and complete the course? Then what?
Because actually right now I'm almost done. I mean, I'm done with the class, but for a year they had to give you a somebody to help you find a job, and
Mm-hmm.
so for a year they gave you counsel for a year,
Mm-hmm.
and then after that, they're trying to get. Like I said, I've been trying to get a job for a while, and
Right.
that's been
Mm-hmm.
pretty tough.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, where? Well, let me ask you. I mean, what do you really want? If I was going to hire you tomorrow, like what do you really want to do? I mean, what would be your dream job?
Actually, talking about, but like I said, about legislation and talking about, making change and dealing with those issues.
Mm-hmm.
But I also, like to do, other things besides that. Things will come up, and there's so it's one of the things is that, well, for an example, Special Olympics, taking going and say there's an athlete, and you want to go, follow the athlete around, asking questions, and you know, basically give that interview and show the
Mm-hmm.
progress. So basically, this.
Okay. Okay. Good.
Oh,
Right. So I mean, are you also interested in like sports reporting and things like that? Because that's very specific. That's sports reporting. Yeah.
I should tell you the truth. I really don't have interest in. Well, that's terrible. I don't have a lot of interest in sports. I mean, I do, when it comes to like Special Olympics and things like that. But really, when it comes to sports, I
Mm-hmm.
actually don't mind wrestling. I don't know why. Wrestling is one of them.
You know what? A lot of people with disabilities are attracted to wrestling. It's very common. It's very relatable. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And one of the other ones is hockey. I don't know
Yeah.
what it is. I mean, hockey. I could, I've never been at a hockey game, but
Mm-hmm.
that would be one of the coolest things. I guess there's something about when they get, it's they get into fights and
Yeah, you like that. Yeah. Are you a big Minnesota Wild fan with the green
actually
and red?
I actually haven't really followed them. As for one thing, for a while, I actually was working for a company, so I really didn't actually get out, but I'd like to. I guess I
Right.
just need to
Mm-hmm.
uh, expand my horizons.
Well, maybe. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah. I mean, I have some pretty controversial views about Special Olympics. I have someone here. So do you? I mean, do you listen to Aaron's opinion like once a week, or do you follow along on YouTube?
I haven't done it in a while.
That's fine. Well, there's a particular video that you should watch. Well, do you prefer listening on Spotify or watching on YouTube?
It doesn't make I have spot. I know. I guess you could say I do either. I do either one.
Okay. Well, I think actually the video is better because you can see things and it's just as good either way. There's a video. Um, yeah, there's a video I can send you where I spoke with another great friend of ours in the community, someone who we'll call Miss Smith, and she was really and she expressed her opinion about the Special Olympics, which is that the Special Olympics kind of takes advantage of people with disabilities, and they're doing some things that are not, in her opinion, are not okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Have you heard of that?
No.
No. Well, that's
Oh, I know I have not.
that's good because it's really negative and really depressing. But yeah, you should listen to. I'll send you that video. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, because when it comes to Special Olympics, you have to very be careful on how you say because you don't want to slander. That can be
Right, and that's
that
one
can
of the
be bad.
problem, and one of the problems that Miss Smith thinks is that the Special Olympics, in her opinion, is slanderous. Is that they in her opinion and in my opinion, they've done some things that are just not quite right. And there's some little truths that about Special Olympics that are not quite understood by the public. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That part may be true. I mean everybody has their opinion. I mean I believe in it because if it wasn't for the Special Olympics, I wouldn't have been able to do any sports at all. So
Right. And no, I get that. And I mean, what sport did you do?
cross country skiing.
Oh, that's really cool. Oh, that's cool.
And I was actually actually tell you the truth, I was really good,
Mm-hmm.
but there was a problem. I didn't think I was good enough.
Mm-hmm. I
And
see.
well, this is when, obviously when you're 15, 16, you want to fit in. So that was, like I said, again, when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
wanting to fit in, that was hard for me.
Yeah. Sure. Sure. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I can understand what you mean. So, how does cross country skiing work? In the Special Olympics.
Well, it's basically just obviously you ski
Mm-hmm.
and you compete with with other contenders it's and I actually was pretty fast.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've gotten some golds and I got some silvers.
Oh, cool. Do you still have your medals?
I got some, but
Cool, man.
unfortunately, my mom, even my brother and my sister, when I was younger, I didn't think I was good enough, so I'm always throwing in the trash. but my mom actually has a few of them, and and she's actually gave me a few.
That's funny. That's fun. Yeah, but are they made of real gold or silver?
I don't know. It's it. I haven't really asked if it's real or not.
Yeah, I actually talked to someone on my show a couple years ago who was in the para Olympics, and he told me that the medals that he won are made of real gold. So if you see a gold medal in the real Olympics, like the Paralympics, it's real. It's gold. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I think we're pretty much finished here.
Well, okay. Well, then I'll ask you a final question. I completely understand. No problem. You did a great job as always, man. So, what are your future goals? In content creation, podcasting. What do you think?
I actually would like to do this as a business. It's I haven't really made up my mind, but
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what I want to do.
Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
so now I really want to basically I want to contract myself out. So basically being a self contractor, and so working for companies, and that's the interesting. But I still want to be employed because but also the fact that one of the main reasons why I want to work for myself. You don't have to worry about I can't think of the name. Well, it's so when you work for a company, they have the rights to what you do. I mean, so
Right.
if you do a podcast and you're doing it for a radio station, the content is used for that particular agency or
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right.
station.
Right. Sure. Sure. Yeah. Well, that is very interesting. My advice to you. Hold on 1 second. My advice is that you need to get on YouTube like I do and keep putting up more and more YouTube videos explaining who you are and what you're able to provide for a radio station. And over time, over many years, these things, Daniel, unfortunately, these things are very slow moving. But over many years of doing that, eventually people will notice your channel and will notice you. Eventually, you know. Mm-hmm. So
Mm.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, true, but that's the reason why I'm applying. That's the reason why I want to work for stations, because when you work for a station, eventually people will know who you are, and you know,
Well,
especially
yes and no. I mean, only if you're on air. If you're off air doing the behind the scenes for the station, then maybe not. You know.
no. But I actually want no. I actually want to be. I actually want to be a host.
That's perfect. You would be perfect at that. I mean, I love being a host. I just adore everything about interviewing people and being the host of Aaron's Opinion. It's perfect for me. But if I was going to help a radio station, I think it's more interesting to actually do the behind the scenes stuff, the planning, the organization, the secret stuff that happens behind the scenes is actually more interesting, at least in my opinion. But both are amazing for sure.
Right. And you know, I actually want to do both. It's for one thing, I want people to know what I do, and for one thing,
Hmm.
I know I can do it. There's a difference. Like me, I might have a disability, but I know that I can do it.
Right.
So when you have a desire to do something, you're more likely to do it. That's a
Well, it's about motivation. It's about self motivating. Which at this point, Daniel, if you want to come to me and say that you think it's hard for you to motivate yourself, I'm going to say you're right because there's a lot of reasons to not feel motivated right now. There's a lot of reasons to not feel good. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, I can relate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I can tell you that if you market yourself well, and if you keep putting out YouTube videos, you know, I would say you have to put out a video once a week. Other people will tell you got to put out videos every day. I think videos every day gets a little old. It gets a little repetitive, and you start to lose people's interest every day. But once a week, I think is a good amount of time. So
Right.
just keep on keeping on and keep on helping others in the community. Keep being willing to come to people's shows and talk about stuff. So that's really important. That's so good, man. Yeah. Oh, and does Spotty listen to Aaron's opinion? Is she an Aaron's opinion fan?
No, she's not.
No, she's not.
No.
I thought. Considering I brought her up, I thought she ought. I thought she listens every week.
Oh,
Who knows?
we could probably get her to do that.
Who knows? As she's having a mealworm or a dubia roast, who knows? She might be listening to Aaron's opinion. You never know.
Believe it or not, my wife, Leah, she would be impressed that you actually remember her name.
Yeah, because I have an obsession with having my own reptile. That's how I remember. Yeah,
That's really impressive. I'm impressed, actually.
yeah, yeah. How old is Spotty now?
6 years old.
Oh, so good, man. So good. Yeah, they live for at least 30 years, so you'll have her for a long time. We're out of pure curiosity, and maybe you shouldn't answer just on the recording, but I'm just purely curious. Like, where did you get her from? And you don't have to name drop it over the air if you don't want to, but I'm just curious, where did she come from? How did
Actually,
you? Yeah.
actually, my wife actually purchased her from PetSmart, and so
Oh,
that's not a real that's not a that's not a bad question. It's just that well, so she got her, and she's doing well.
yeah. Cool. What morph? I know she's a leopard gecko, but what morph is she?
Well, don't know. She's a lizard.
Well, in other words, in the reptile hobby, they care a lot about like the different colors and the different patterns, and those are called morphs. And in
Oh,
fact,
I
I
see.
can I can show you later what it is. It probably, if you didn't know, she's probably what would be called a normal, which means she kind of has kind of gold skin with kind of a spots on her tail, kind of a golden color, probably. Yeah. But leopard geckos can come in many beautiful colors. There's some
Right.
really. I'm more into the corn snakes though. I like the lavas, which are like kind of a. You see my shirt color?
Hey,
Like you can get a snake that's this color, this deep, beautiful scarlet color. It's really cool. Do
all
you
right.
have any? Do you have any final questions to really? And this is kind of my signature move. I always like to say, do you have any final questions that you would like to ask me that will really make me sweat?
Uh,
See if I'm worth my salt as a podcaster. And you could have asked, do you remember the name of my lizard? But I already remembered. So sorry.
oh,
Do you have another question that'll make me sweat?
I don't. I can't think of anything that I could ask.
Well, that's totally fine, man. Well, look, I'm going to end the recording here, but if someone wants to get in touch with Daniel J. Hood and if someone wants to hire you, where do they go? How do they contact you?
Oh, that would be it. When it comes to actually contacting me, I can provide that information. So you can actually go to my website, www.hoodwave.org. And again, that would be www.hoodwave.org.
Well, very good. You can type you can type up a good description for me and then I can paste it in there later, but that's all very good. All right then. Well, thanks so much and thanks for joining us today. Don't forget to continue listening each week. And Daniel, do you remember how I end every episode of Aaron's Opinion?
Oh, I forgot.
That's fine. We say, take care, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And help one person today, help 1 million people tomorrow. And thank you so much. We're still actually on the YouTube. Do you have any final questions before I turn off the YouTube and completely disconnect?
No, I think
That's
we're covered it.
That's good. All right, guys. Well, look, if you're still watching on YouTube, don't forget comment below on YouTube. Don't forget like it if you like it. share it, subscribe, turn on the bell notification. All right, everybody. Like I like to say, Daniel, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll keep in touch over Messenger, and as I like to say, help one person today, help 1 million people tomorrow. Stay safe, everybody. Take care.